And welcome back to the Resilience Pod, the podcast helping you become resilient in our world full of disruptions. You're here with me, your host, Rina Singh. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am truly grateful. Have you ever wondered what it takes to win an award in our industry? Have you seen all these people win awards, but not entirely sure what they did? Guys, industry awards are a great way to leverage yourself and is something that we should all look at doing and applying for. Today, I am joined and talking to my next guest who has actually won a Resilience Industry Award, and she's going to tell us exactly how. She has supported various companies across multiple industries globally to prepare for disruptive events. She is a qualified lead implementer of ISO 22301, an employee representative on her board at her place of work, and also comes with a very interesting background with a master's in psychology, occupational psychology. Wow, how interesting is that? Along with this impressive list of experiences, she is also the winner of CIR, Continuity Insurance and Risks, Newcomer of the Year 2020. So it's with great excitement to introduce to you my next guest on the Resilience Pod, Bethany Warren. Hi, Bethany. How are you?
Hi, Rina. I'm very well, thank you.
How's things? I'm so glad to have you on the pod for you sharing, your experiences, and we're kind of going to get right into it because this is all about how I won and how you won the industry award. And can I just say, before I go into my first question and you tell us how, all this impressive list for a newcomer, truly excited that you're going to be sharing your journey. So without further ado, what is it that you did in that space of a year, because when we're looking at industry awards, it is what you've done in a year that made you win? So what are some of the three key things that you did? So what's number one that you did?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So when I actually joined this sector and when I joined my job, I actually had no experience in business continuity whatsoever. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest. And, organizational resilience, hadn't heard of it. So I was really starting from scratch. So the first kind of thing that I did throughout that year, and I still do now, is focus a lot on training. And I'll give you some examples of trainings that I did. So I did the BCI's CBCI course. That was a good one. Also, as you said, the lead implementer, the ISO one, and the internal auditor. And the thing that I like about, doing those trainings is you not only get to increase your skill set and, your expertise, but you also get to meet, great people and connect with people, learn from their experiences as well. So that's definitely one of the kind of plus sides of being able to do that external training. But I'm also aware, not everyone has the opportunity to be able to do these external trainings for one reason or another. So some other things that I did, during my first appraisal, I actually requested if I could have 30 minutes a day in my diary. And it was purely focused on personal development.
Wow.
And so I would look at, webinars, any reports, the global risk reports, even if it was just checking the news, seeing what's going on around the world. And sometimes, looking through LinkedIn, you can find out a lot of stuff through LinkedIn as well. So that was one of the things. And then another thing that I did was shadowing a lot within the business and learning from other people. So I'd say, the first thing I did, and this was in my, application, was, really focusing on that learning, training and development.
That's really interesting. And I think a lot of us forget that training element. It's like you don't just become good without training. And it's really interesting that you say, oh yeah, well, I actually didn't know anything about business continuity or resilience, because you've got that background in psychology. So really proactive measures that you've taken. Now, what else did you do in that space to win this award?
Okay, so The next thing is I definitely took every single opportunity that came my way. And, when I'm thinking about it, I don't think I ever said no to any kind of opportunity or thing that I was, asked to do. And even though, sometimes I might have felt a bit out of my depth, I would still take on the challenge. And I will give you an example now of this. So I think I was about 8 months into my employment, and I got given this amazing opportunity to assist one of my colleagues on some audits, and they were taking place in America and China. So I was obviously like, yeah, definitely sign me up. I'll be there.
Yeah.
So we got to Beijing to do the China one. And, I was there as a kind of support, also learning. I'd done my training on auditing. So I had that knowledge, but I was mainly there as a support. And we'd concluded the first day of the audit. It was going fine. Everything was great. And I remember waking up the next morning to conclude this audit with my colleague. And he had sent me a text message saying, I'm feeling really, really unwell. And I thought, oh no, is he going to be all right to finish this? And it turns out, no, he wasn't okay. And, at that moment in time, I thought I really need to step up and finish this for the client. We don't want to let the client down. And I also didn't want to let my colleague down. He wasn't very well. And I'll always remember, going down to the hotel reception and, getting in the taxi. And when I went to get in the taxi, put the seatbelt on, no seatbelts in the taxis. And I don't know if you've been to China, but the roads are just completely different to what it's like here. And, at that moment in time, I was kind of just looking around and I thought, wow, I don't think I've ever felt this kind of far away from home in my life. But, I was thinking in my head, I can either, have a go at this, try my absolute best. And if it goes wrong, I can learn from it. Or I can, give up and not try and never know what could have happened. And for me, that just wasn't an option. I was always going to do it. So, I got to the site, I worked with the business continuity lead, concluded all of the interviews, had, the closeout with the senior leadership team. And, as a result, we met the client commitments. We got all of that done, happy client. And for me personally, like that feeling was just like indescribable. Or I just felt, on top of the world and that I could achieve anything. So, yeah. The point I'm trying to make is, take those opportunities if they arise, because they are perfect to put in your application.
I love that. Like, I get that excitement when you're telling me the story.
Yes.
And I've read this this before in a spotlight that you did for the BCI Women in Resilience, and just getting that insight from you and just like being in a different country and then like stepping up when you're just new to it is fantastic. Because actually, if we think about our journeys, or whoever's watching or listening us and thinking, how many times have you been in that situation where that's been you? It's not completely unique to one person, and stuff like that, and demonstrating that is really cool. So well done for doing all that. and it's scary and stepping up and doing that, because you get that self-confidence. But also thank you for sharing that, because it feels like, when people win these awards, you think, oh, what have they done? And actually what you've said so far is so doable. It feels it's not, oh my gosh, I can't do that, so I'm not going to bother. Well, actually, the two things you said, I can do that. Yeah, sure, no problem. Definitely. So moving on from that, I'm quite pumped up now. What about like, what else did you do that you would like to share?
Okay, so I said before, I didn't have any experience in business continuity, which I didn't. But what I did have is, experience in my studies in psychology and business psychology. So what I tried to do is really incorporate that into this world of resilience. And I'll give another example here. And this was also in my application. So it was my first day on the job, and I was attending a crisis simulation exercise just as an observer for a client. And, I have to admit, during the crisis simulation, I didn't have any idea what was going on. But when it come around to giving the feedback at the end, I got asked, do you have any feedback from your studies? And I said, you know what? Yeah. And I gave a completely kind of different perspective on things, really focusing on the human element of crisis events. And when I was, working with clients and, also doing like research and things, I was finding that, businesses are so kind of focused after a crisis event to focus on restoring, those business critical processes and procedures. But it's almost like they forget that it's their employees that they're actually, really relying on to actually do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really kind of passionate about. And I think, having that something I'm passionate about, and that also links to my studies, has really helped me be, a bit more innovative and help me find gaps within what we're currently doing. So another example is, I've recently been developing some training slides just on our fight or flight response to stress and crises. And it's funny because when I think about, China, that wasn't obviously an organizational crisis, but that was a mini crisis for me. And, I was relying on my own resilience there. And I definitely experienced that kind of like physiological bodily response to stress, that kind of rapid heart rate, you get the sweaty palms, things like that. So I was experiencing all of that. And I think, we forget that we're actually asking our employees to command a crisis sometimes under those conditions. And that's really why, training and exercising and building our employees' competency is so important. So the point I'm trying to make here is, try and find an area that you're really passionate about. And there's so many different ways into resilience now. So it's not always that, coming from that military or emergency services background, you don't have to come from there anymore. Whatever kind of background you've got, whatever degree you've got, whatever experience you've got, I can guarantee you can somehow relate it into resilience somehow.
Yeah, that's such a insightful look into kind of your story there, and a little tip actually, which is a bonus there that we've got, because actually a lot of us don't realize that it's the spectrum is wider than that. And I love the whole human aspect of it, and that's what we're at the Resilience Pod is all about. So definitely it's really important, and I love that you have that take on it as well, because you've got that degree and it's actually making it relevant, which then actually demonstrates the successes you've had in such a short time in your career, which is so commendable, because you're relating those together, and being self-aware. So that's fantastic. So thank you for that. Those kind of like this, guys, this is an insight into what Bethany did to win. And you don't get that all the time. No one shares that. So, I think just you sharing that, I'm going to say it again, is really helpful to all of us. Is there, in terms of, before we move on, is there anything else that you'd like to share on what you did to win? Any last words?
Yeah, so, I think what rounds up, everything that I've been talking about is I definitely tried to adopt a growth mindset in everything that I do. And, I was introduced to the growth and the fixed mindset during my studies. I actually studied it for my master's in my dissertation. And I don't want to be cringy, but it really did change my life. And anyone can adopt this way of thinking. And for anyone that doesn't know, what a fixed or a growth mindset is. So when you have a growth mindset, you really believe that your intelligence can be developed, through hard work and effort. You have this real kind of desire to learn, and you challenge yourself, and also persist in the face of any setbacks, and really view those as learning opportunities or opportunities to grow. And on the other hand, you have this fixed mindset way of thinking, and you believe that your intelligence is almost static, and you can't change it. And, people will always say something like, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That kind of saying, that's a fixed mindset way of thinking. And they also, if you've got this fixed mindset way of thinking, you'll also, shy away from things that challenge you. And I will give an example of me, because I definitely had a fixed mindset way of thinking, before I was introduced to this, and I didn't even know, that I had that at the time.
Okay.
But during my university degree, if I ever got given the opportunity to do an essay over a presentation, I would always choose the essay because I knew I was good at essays, and I knew presentations, it didn't, come naturally to me. I was a bit, scared of them, and I wasn't very good at them. So I thought, well, I'm going to pick the essay option. And the issue with doing that is, you're really shying away from your weaknesses. You're not tackling what you're weak at. You're strengthening what you're good at. But to be a well-rounded individual with your skills, it's really good to acknowledge your weaknesses and work on these as well. And yeah, just going back to that presenting example, and how I've kind of changed myself as a person. Now I, take on every opportunity that I get to practice this. So I've been on a public speaking course, I've led on the client calls, I've presented to clients. I helped my colleague present a webinar last year, and now I'm on this podcast. So, I'm making progress, but I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without this growth mindset way of thinking. And, if you take anything away from this podcast today, it is the growth mindset, definitely.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. You definitely speak my love language on that.
Yeah.
It's definitely correct. And it's a little bit more than just what did you do at work. There's a whole combination of these things, and you're a whole rounded person. And I love that you shared some of your fixed mindsets
Yes.
and being really real with us, because that's what the Resilience Pod is about. And I only bring my audience the best. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's definitely given me more inspiration to start thinking about like what I do, and then whether I could put that into an entry. Now, moving on from that, there's a stigma around this. When I speak to lots of people in the industry, like, oh, I could never apply for an award because like, oh, I don't think I've done enough, or like, why should I? Like, someone else will do that for me. Having won this award, and you've gone through such immense growth in the time, and especially in the time that I first met you. I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, where you were like completely new to it, and like me and Bethany know each other like in person as well, not just virtually. Like, you've come such a long way. So what tips, and I really value your opinion and insight into this, what tips would you give other newbies who want to apply for an award like you did?
Okay, so I mean, my first tip is going to be pretty obvious, is about the growth mindset, obviously. Just try and adopt that in everything that you do. And, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it is easy to do. It's not something that you kind of wake up one day and just have. You just kind of have to keep working on it. And sometimes I find myself, falling back into that fixed mindset way of thinking about things. And you just have to kind of reframe your thoughts. So definitely, the fixed mind, the growth mindset. And the good thing about that is, it's free. You don't have to, go on some course and spend £1,000 to develop this. Anyone can do it. So definitely recommend, having a growth mindset. Secondly, this is probably obvious as well from what I've spoke about, is just try and be in that constant state of learning. And, this isn't just important for people who are new or in their careers. This is important for everyone. Our intelligence really can be developed, and putting that 30 minutes into my diary a day definitely really helped me. Just understand what's going on around the world, making me be more risk aware, which is always good for us in our jobs. So definitely, make sure you're trying to learn, all the time. Thirdly, I would definitely say, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, and taking every opportunity that comes your way. I think, the saying is, you won't learn anything if you stay within your comfort zone. And, to a certain extent, I do believe in that. I do think when you're outside your comfort zone, you really do learn at a much, much quicker pace. And when I think back to, all the opportunities that I took, I'm so, so glad that I did, because, now we're in this COVID world. Who knows what the post-COVID world is going to look like? Is there going to be travel anymore for consultants? There might not be. We don't know. So I'm really kind of grateful that I took those at the time, because, you never know if you're going to get that opportunity again. And you don't want to, look at your career 5 years down the line and think, oh, why didn't I do that? And I knew that was what it was going to be like with China. I knew if I didn't do it, I would look back and think, what could have happened? And that's not, I'd rather know what happened and it go wrong than, think, what could have happened if I did that? So, my advice is really just go for it and take those opportunities. My fourth tip is definitely, acknowledge your weaknesses and try and find ways to work on them.
Right.
And try and find, sneaky ways to work on them. So I'll give you an example here of me being the employee representative on the board. So this opportunity came up, and, at the time, I didn't know what anyone did in a board meeting. I'd never been to a board meeting. I had no idea really what the role was about, but, it was an opportunity for me to develop and learn. So I said, yep, sign me up. And I ended up getting elected. And, fast forward 6 months, I now present to the board each month, present back to the employees, facilitate discussions. So, doing that inside the workplace has helped me develop my skills for my day-to-day job when I'm being a consultant, and also tackling that, presenting, facilitating, things like that. So, try and work on your weaknesses, and be outside of your comfort zone, but try and look for those kind of small wins where you can do it kind of sneakily. You're not doing it in front of a client every time, but you can do it in a kind of safe environment. So definitely look out for those opportunities. Have I got time for one more?
Yes, go for it. Yeah, the more tips, right, the merrier. Yeah,
I will do one more. It's just come to me. So, try and be resilient in the face of setbacks. And this is easier said than done. And, talking from my experience, I've beat myself up many a time when, something's gone wrong and you can't stop thinking about it. But you just have to remember, everyone's going to experience these setbacks, and things, aren't always going to go quite to plan in your career. And, I think we've all felt it, it does feel absolutely horrible, but the best thing to do, is just don't give up. You just need to persevere. And, I've thought of many times when, presenting or public speaking has gone wrong for me during university. Oh God, it's awful. And, with that fixed mindset, I would just given up, and I did. I just shut it out. No, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not very good at it. But now I'm really trying to, face those fears, face those things I'm not good at. So yeah, that's my final tip there.
Absolutely fantastic tips, Bethany. And they are so doable for each and every one of us. And yeah, they're just fantastic. There's one thing that came to my mind when you've been kind of sharing your journey in this is, and I know a lot of people face this, is like, did you, when you were applying for these awards, did you ever think, oh no, like, shall I nominate myself? Like, will I seem to, like, is that a good thing? Like, how did you get that confidence to do that? And like, there's going to be loads of people watching this or listening thinking, oh, I don't want to do it because I don't want to, I want to be humble and whatever. Like, what was, talk me through what happened in your mind when you went from that application.
So, I mean, I remember back at the Women in Resilience event, actually, we were talking about it, and I was like, I can't nominate myself, I can't do that. And it's weird, actually, because what happened after that, I went and looked up, to apply for it. I spoke to my manager about it, and he says, do you know what? We're already doing your application. And so I was like, oh, what? That's crazy. So, I mean, I had oversight of the application, but they had already started it. So it was quite a weird situation because I was going to apply for it myself. But I do think, if you are applying yourself, go for it. What have you got to lose? I think, you may as well. And having that conversation with you during that Women in Resilience event made me have that confidence to do that. So if anyone's listening now and doesn't know whether to do it, definitely just go for it.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's just like, I go on about it all the time. Like, everyone should just do self-promotion, but it's nice to hear it from you and the impact like our conversation had for you to do it. Now I know, like, just one more thing on the back of that. Now there's people that apply for the awards and they don't get shortlisted. Like, it's okay.
Yes.
Should that stop anybody in the future applying again if they don't get shortlisted or win?
I think definitely apply again, and if you don't get shortlisted that year, there's nothing saying you won't get shortlisted the next year. And hopefully when you're listening to what I've spoke about today, it might, give you some inspiration of things that you can do and put into practice. And by all means, I'm more than happy to share my application with anyone. So if anyone wants to, get in contact with me and wants to just see what was on mine, word for word, I'm more than happy to share that. But, if you don't succeed the first time, just, the next time, just make sure you're doing more things to kind of, promote yourself and develop your skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for saying that. That's so generous of you showing your application. And I feel like in the industry we get quite secretive about what we've done, and sometimes I know personally I've wondered, like, oh, what did this person do to win? Like, how can I get inspiration from that? And you know what, people don't, often or not, when you ask people, they'll be willing to share it, but not to the extent where they'll share everything, because it's like a competition, where it's not, where it is a competition, but you can get inspired from it. So really, thank you so much for offering that and just sharing what you've done, because I'm going to say it again, that it's not every day you get someone who's won an award coming and sharing exactly what they've done. So you need to, if you're listening or watching, take these tips into play. So as we come like closer to the end of the podcast, unfortunately, I want to ask you a final question. Like, you've won this award, Continuity Newcomer of the Year 2020. Is fantastic. What now?
Okay, that is a really good question. So I'm obviously still new to all of this. Well, I've been in this industry for just over 2 years now. But I would love to, one day apply for those BCI awards. I think it's Continuity and Resilience Consultant. But I know, I'm not there yet. I've still got a lot of, learning and experience to develop myself. But, it's good to have that kind of end goal in sight of where I would like to be. I think for me, I'm going to keep, exposing myself to all these different, situations, keep taking those opportunities to develop myself, network with other people in the industry. I definitely want to do more in the industry. I love what the Women in Resilience do. And, one day I'd love to, do a bit more for that. So that's definitely on my kind of bucket list. And, one day I've even considered, presenting or doing a business continuity conference, something like that. That is probably far away. I'm still building my confidence, but I would love to do that one day. So that's definitely up there as well. And also, helping other people in the industry. So if there's anyone new to the industry or not new, or anyone that just wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please do. I think, like you say, sometimes this corporate world can be quite intimidating and scary. And I think, it's nice to be nice to each other. And this industry in particular is really, really nice and accommodating to anyone. So, yeah. And I'll just say, final comment is, I think if you've got a real kind of eagerness to learn, if you're, really enthusiastic about this industry, and I think, I'm going to drop it in there, the growth mindset, I really, really think, you can achieve so much in this industry. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And I love that you're just putting out all these things you want to do into the universe. It's documented. So manifestation,
Yeah.
it will come true. And, it's fantastic. Thank you once again, Bethany, for taking the time out and investing your time to help us all become resilient as well by sharing this insight. Really do appreciate you for doing that.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Now, guys, please take into note and consideration everything that Bethany has shared with us. She is, watch out for her, the future of our industry, and she's gonna go far. I just know it. Like from the first moment I met you to now, you have grown so much. I'm so proud to know you. And just watch out for this lady. That's all I'm going to say. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you once again, Bethany, for joining us on the Resilience Pod. And thank you to all of you guys who are either listening or watching for investing your time in this. If you've liked what we've talked about and you've liked this episode, then please don't forget to share and comment and let us know your thoughts. For first dibs on all new content, subscribe and visit the resiliencepod.com website. Join me on the LinkedIn group, and we're also on Instagram at Resilience Pod. So guys, until next time, this is me, your host Rina, saying thank you, and until next time, keep on investing in your resilience.